Hello, pussycat! Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you about something that's a bit depressing, but hopefully... Sorry. Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you today about something that's a little bit depressing, but hopefully it'll have a happy message. I wanted to talk to you guys about social anxiety and what it means to me and some misconceptions about social anxiety. Now, obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist or any kind of expert on the subject. I can just talk about my own experiences with it and what it means for me. So here are some social anxiety myths. Basically, I've had some form of depression and anxiety, specifically social anxiety, since I was quite young, I guess my early teens, but it wasn't really diagnosed until fairly recently, and I was kind of in two minds for a while about whether I actually had it or whether it was something else, because self-diagnosing is hard when you're not an expert, and there are lots of misconceptions on the internet about the subject, because obviously a lot of people talk about it. There's a lot of talk about the subject on social media, and people will say, when you've got social anxiety you do this and you do that. And these things aren't untrue. I'm sure they're true for lots of people, but they're not always true for everyone. So I just wanted to dispel some myths, not because they're untrue, but because they're not true for everyone. And I've written some things down because I didn't remember them. I was unprepared. Okay, so the first myth that you will hear a lot, which is probably true for some people, but not me, is that people with social anxiety never go out. They would rather stay in than go out. They're not party animals. They don't like to go clubbing. They don't like to go to events. They would rather sit at home and maybe read a book or watch a film, watch Netflix, etc. And that's the kind of person they are. They're not party animals in any way. Now, that makes sense. If you're socially anxious, you're probably less likely to go to a big social occasion, but it's not really true for me. I do like to party. Obviously, depending on my mood, social occasions might not be good for me. I'm kind of fine in crowds, weirdly enough, and I'll get onto that later. But to say that no one with social anxiety enjoys nights out, they all prefer nights in, and you know, if you like to party or if you like to go clubbing or house parties or whatever, you don't have it, that is inaccurate, basically. I like to go out. I would rather go out than stay in a lot of the time. I find when I stay in, that can be a bit more depressing. It's not always the case that people with anxiety don't like nights out at all. Another one is that when you're in busy places, you have panic attacks, hence not wanting to go clubbing or to gay pride or whatever. Now that's true of like people I know and other people with social anxiety. I dislike quiet places. I find them very tense, very intimidating. Trains, doctors' waiting rooms. I don't like them. They're too tense. I'm always convinced I'm going to drop all my money on the floor or need to cough, and I have to try not to cough so people don't look at me, or I'm going to fall over, or I'm going to pull the door that says push. Sorry if you've got social anxiety and this is like stressing you out. In a noisy place, I'm fine. It might be noisy and busy, and then I'm less likely to make a fool of myself or whatever. But generally, I don't feel as anxious in loud places or busy places as I do in quiet places. And also, I don't really have panic attacks when I'm out and about. I normally have them when I'm lying on my bed thinking about the future and having an existential crisis. That's when I have a panic attack, so that's another one. Another one is that we are natural introverts. Now, obviously if you're anxious you're going to be more shy and quiet sometimes, but you're like, no one's born with anxiety. Your personality kind of comes first. So you might be an extrovert naturally, and maybe the social anxiety takes over and you become more introverted. You might become extroverted as a reaction to the social anxiety, so to, I don't know, if, appear more brave and strong in public, you might act as more of an introvert, as more of an extrovert. I'm quite an extrovert, as you know, so that's one thing that I guess put me off the idea that I might have social anxiety, was that I was an extrovert and loud around friends and stuff, rather than being shy and too scared to talk to friends. It depends who you're with. You can be someone who suffers in crowds or intense spaces or with people they don't know and still be loud and extroverted and fun with your friends, that they don't want friends and that they would rather stay on the internet. Obviously I would rather stay on the internet sometimes, but that's not true. If you're anxious, you do want to make friends, it's just that your anxiety stops you or makes it really hard. You might find it hard to socialise with people. It doesn't mean that you don't want friends. You do want friends a lot of the time. So when people put like memes or whatever, posts about social anxiety, like I don't want friends, that's not true. Maybe of some people, but many people with social anxiety want friends. Another thing, and I see schools do this, parents do this, bosses, friends, whatever, is to push the person. That, you know, you have to push this person, you have to force them to speak in front of others, and then they will gain confidence. No, that's not how social anxiety works, and lots of people really struggle with that. You should not push somebody to do something they're not ready to do. That makes them more anxious. It makes them more afraid. And pushing someone to, like, I don't know, make a phone call or stand up in front of the class or the school or whatever, that will make them worse. You have to work with people at the pace that they can work at. Another thing that a lot of people think is helpful, and they're well-meaning but it's not good, is to ask them. To constantly want them to spell out their problems. And obviously it's good for them to let people know about their problems if they can, but to sort of attack them and go, what's wrong? Why can't you? Why can't you make a phone call? Why can't you get on the bus? What's wrong? Tell me. Go into specifics. That's horrible. No one wants to go into specifics and details about their problem. Obviously it's helpful to the other person if they do, but you have to bear in mind that if someone's showing signs of having anxiety or signs of not wanting to talk about something, you shouldn't keep asking them. You should just take their word for it that they're not comfortable with something. Another one, and this kind of rounds up everything I've said, is that they are all the same or have the same symptoms. All people with social anxiety know this, and you'll see that sort of thing on the internet, and as this video has shown, it's not true. I'm not saying that you can have social anxiety and you're not socially anxious. Obviously you are socially anxious. You might be an extrovert who's also quite socially anxious. You might be someone who doesn't panic in busy places, but you panic in quiet places. Some people might be really shy with their friends. Some people might be loud and fun with their friends, but then they're shy with strangers. Everyone is different, and I'm not saying, oh no, if you've got social anxiety, you have none of these problems. Obviously you do have problems, because you have an anxiety disorder. That's not good. But not all the symptoms are the same, and I think we need to dispel that myth, because if we don't, then lots of people won't be diagnosed. Because it's good to dispel the myths that, you know, there's one set way of having social anxiety, and then people will realise maybe that they have a problem, or people will be more likely to go to the doctor or go to the therapist and get diagnosed. Look, okay, it's on the tripod. Pikachu! Oh, fine. Unsociable cat. I think he's got anxiety too. It's also good to remember with depression and anxiety that there is a scale. So you have I don't know which way around it is, anxiety at one end and depression at the other end. He's stroking my foot. And some people are just one or the other, but most people are somewhere in the middle with the symptoms. Most people have symptoms of one and symptoms of the other. As you know, I'm not an expert, so if you want an expert, I'm not the person to talk to, but I'm very connected. There are similar symptoms, and lots of people are on the spectrum somewhere, and no one is exactly the same. Everyone who suffers with these kind of disorders are different and have different symptoms, and that should be remembered. Oh, you stroking me, pussycat! Whatever your mental health status, I hope you have had a lovely Christmas, and I hope you have a very happy new year, and I will see you in 2016. Bye! Who was that stroking my feet? Yes, that's a camera lens. Say hello to the internet. Meow! Oh, my pussycat. Oh, you're so cute.